Hi, everybody. Welcome to Midweek. This week, we have kind of a singular focus. It's going to be cool. We're going to be talking about Priority One. But before we do that, I want to take you on a little bit of a history tour. I want to take you to two locations, downtown Salem and maybe England and beyond in Europe. What do I want you to see? I want you to come down to downtown Salem in the early 1900s. Let's just say 1910. What are you going to find down here? Well, you're going to find in this location the same thing you found in England, a lot of churches. They used to tell me, the historians of our city, that we used to have about 40 downtown churches. Not huge, but vibrant. Think about that. In the downtown corridor, 40 churches. Now, I understand we weren't driving from West Salem and Kaiser and everything else. It was kind of a little more centralized. But what's happened in this city since 1910? Same thing that's happened in England. In 1910, if you were to come and take kind of an evaluation, they said somewhere between 70, maybe a peak of 80% of the people had an association and a regular attendance in their church. Can you imagine that? It's hard to imagine because you know what it is today? If you were to take a pulse of Europe, it's probably less than 2%. If you take just a pulse of Salem, the low end, 4 to 5%, the high end, about 11 or 12%. Think about that for a moment. Yeah, we had 40 churches and we've kind of dispersed them out, and we still have somewhere, if you look at Salem Kaiser, about 100 churches. And again, I'll let you decide how many of them you can find Christ in. But if you were to take the number 70 to 80% and then move it down to today, what is it? 4 or 5% to maybe 11? What is that percentage? It's the number of people who regularly attend a church in their city. What happened? Quite simply, every one of those churches in the 1910s didn't reach the next generation. And in the churches in the 1950s didn't reach the next generation. A lot of them have ceased. God has done something really a blessing to our church. But what's grieved us and what's really stirring our heart this year in Priority One is the next generation. What is Priority One in our church? It's pursuing God's missional destiny for our church. And that is to bring people into a life-changing relationship with God and each other. And our desire is to be a church for the city that through the gospel-centric ministry that is loving our neighbors, making disciples, changing the culture of our city, we want to turn that. I think it's slid enough. How about you? From 70% down to maybe, let's just choose a number, 10%. And so what we want to do this year is we want to invite in some people who God has used skillfully to learn how to reach the disenfranchised next generation. Now, I want you to watch this video. It tells you a little bit about Steiger Ministries and how it started in Amsterdam on a barge, and they started a Bible study, and they did some really cool things. But that ministry is now reaching back into the United States where they came from. And they're helping churches just like ours who say, God, would you help us reach the next generation? Take a look at this video. I think you'll be inspired.
Steiger grew out of a passion to reach young people who would not walk into a church. What started out as a dynamic ministry, reaching young people of Amsterdam, has grown into a worldwide mission organization called to reach and disciple the global youth culture for Jesus. The global youth culture is the largest culture to ever exist. They're more connected, but never more alone. Always seeking pleasure, never satisfied. A worldwide suicide epidemic, sexually broken and confused, raised on pornography, taught there's no absolute truth, only preference. This global generation is overwhelmed with loneliness, anxiety, and depression, and they are not looking to the church for answers because they believe it to be irrelevant to their lives. Many are apathetic, cynical, and even hostile to the gospel. These are our friends, our sons, and our daughters. How do we communicate the gospel to these people who have such a negative view of God? How can we show them the love of Jesus in a language they'll understand? Steiger mobilizes followers of Jesus to reach young people who would not walk into a church. We are active in over 100 cities around the globe and bridge the gap between the church and the global youth culture by establishing Steiger City teams. A Steiger City team is a catalytic force for engaging secularized culture with 4 key objectives. 1, we equip and unify the local church to effectively reach young people of their communities. 2, we raise up the next generation of Christian leaders and influencers. 3, we transform the culture by being relationally present and engaging in bold, creative evangelism in the secular scene. And 4, we multiply the impact by fostering a culture of disciples who make disciples who make disciples. Thousands of lives are being transformed all over the world by the power of the gospel. Jesus said there is a great harvest and few workers. Will you join us as we bring the love of Jesus to the global youth culture?
Well, I hope you had a good time looking at that video. You can probably get online and look more about David Pierce, his family, Ben, and Aaron, and some of those guys. We're going to have 3 of them come to our church on Priority 1. And David, Dad, is going to be teaching in our services on Saturday night and the 2 on Sunday morning. Ben is going to be doing what I would call a seminar on Jesus in the secular world. I am absolutely off the charts looking forward to this. Why? Because Ben was raised in an extremely secular culture and he loves Jesus. He is so committed to helping churches like us reach the disenfranchised, reach the anti-church, not the favorable church people. He's helping us think, how do we reach the secular, the atheist, the agnostic, the angry person who just simply has no time? That's who we want to go after. Why? Because we're never going to turn this thing around from the 70% slide down to the 10% slide unless God brings an awakening to our city. So we're bringing these guys in from Steiger. We're really happy, just absolutely happy that their schedule fit ours. What's going to happen? Friday night, we're going to have some training with leaders, and then Saturday morning, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, we're going to have a seminar. It is open to all. Please bring friends. Invite every person you know. Yes, make it available to other folks in other churches. Why? Because we want them to succeed. Because when they succeed, we all do. So Ben is going to be making that presentation. It'll be Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock. It's called Jesus in the Secular World. And it's going to help us think, how do we reach the disenfranchised? Saturday afternoon, we have this dear brother, Moa Barbosa from Sao Paulo. And he's coming here, and he's going to help us do an outreach to the city. Now, I know some of you are like, I don't do that. I want you to pray about it. I want you to pray about maybe this is where I'm supposed to be Saturday from 1 to 3. And we're going to be doing an outreach in our city, and they're going to be doing some training about how to what? Interact with people who live in a secular mindset. And then David is going to be preaching about the lost sheep and just kind of giving us an inspirational message about really, again, falling in love with the lost sheep that God loves and is going to go after. So that's Priority 1. That's October 23rd, 24th is kind of the sweet spot. It's just a couple of weeks away. I cannot wait to come and see. I remember last year, Priority 1 kind of got set aside because of the COVID thing. We're going to go for it this year. It's going to be great. And we have some really, really cool speakers coming in. They're going to help us think and get trained and even have a greater heart for the disenfranchised. You say, well, I'm not of that generation. Exactly. I'm not either. I'm not of the 15-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, and the 25-year-olds. My grandkids are going to get raised in that. And one of my passions is that my grandkids have a great church to attend. And my grandkids have great churches in their city. So that's why we're going to target the the next generation in Priority One. We're going to talk more about it. We're going to keep you queued up. Please put it on your schedule. Remember, Saturday the 23rd, that's going to be the seminar, and then the weekend services, and then also the outreach, which is Saturday afternoon, 1 to 3. Can't wait to see you this weekend. We're going to continue in the series called The Bride, and we are looking at how God has pulled us together to be a church, to do what? To be a church for this city. Can't wait to see you, whether you're online or you're in person. I want you to pray this weekend. Last weekend, we prayed for Thrive. They had a high school retreat. It was great. Started off a little rough because we got our catalytic converters stolen from our vans. I understand it was about the 10th time in the last 6 months. We're going to fix that. That was a slight exaggeration, just in case you didn't know. But they did. But they went because they're tenacious, and they had a great retreat. This weekend is Fusion. That's our middle school, and they're going to be on a retreat. Would you pray for them? Pray for healthy leaders. Pray for healthy students. Pray for spiritual impact, and pray that the catalytic converters stay on the vans. Take care. I love you. Have a great week.